findings show that just 21% of leaders see a clear promotion path, while more than a quarter believe they have to leave to advance. And you've all touched a little bit on the leadership retention piece of this. Again, it's critical for stability to have that retention be in place. What approaches are actually working today when it comes to that retention, and where are organizations still missing the mark on this? Rob, I'll start off with you.
Not to beat a dead horse, but the elements of a succession strategy, I think, are very, very important, and how deep they go within the organization. Oftentimes, I think we see succession as strictly for the C-suite, right? The top echelon of leaders, when in fact, succession planning should go deeper, much deeper into the organization. And that creates, in and of itself, when we think about retention just in general within the workforce, one thing that pops every single time, right up with what you would expect by way of compensation and other things, is ability to continue to grow professionally, right? And career development. That starts early on. And our ability as a healthcare system or organizations, the ones I've seen do really, really well are starting IDPs or individual development plans well down into the organization to really identify what are some of those inherent skill sets and qualities that you would be looking for to develop into larger roles and leadership roles within the organization. Also, once you're into that succession planning program, is it just, are we feeding just one discipline? Is that it? I think our leaders need a more well-rounded view of how the business runs, right? So putting them on a rotation schedule that allows them to experience and lead in and influence, and let's say finance, IT, all the way around. So we're creating leaders with a more robust skill set, right? And we're really strengthening those muscles as well.
Mike, same question for you then. Again, what's working when it comes to that leadership retention piece? And then also, what are some of the ways that organizations can achieve what Rob just outlined?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I'm really pleased with where Rob's taken this question, actually, because, number one, I totally agree with the fact that, leadership succession and development, talent development needs to go deeper into the organization. And in order to do that, you've got to be able to identify the leaders that are eager to learn. When they're eager to learn, it's easier to expose them to maybe other areas of the organization to help develop their skill sets, help develop their ability to learn throughout. And that also helps create the stability and the culture that we talked about earlier, because whenever you learn a new skill, a new aspect of an organization, it just makes you that much sharper, that much better. Many of us have administrative fellowship programs that we're bringing in new leaders, and we do that on a regular basis to rotate them through the different areas. But I also think a lot of leaders can come from, our homegrown networks too, outside of a formal program, because a lot of people have innate skills that we need to expose them to other components to make them and the organization better. It just solidifies it much better. And I'm speaking this of a former organization where it was really big on rotational leadership, and it pays dividends in terms of creating that really tight, strong culture. And I think a lot of health systems can learn from others that experience that type of mindset.
Betty, I'd love to get your thoughts on this too. Again, the idea of upskilling, right, comes to mind, the sort of a buzzword a little bit. But again, what's working when it comes to this conversation? What have you seen actually work with the organizations that you work with?
Yeah, I agree with Rob on the succession planning and Mike, but I would also argue retention starts before succession planning. It actually starts with onboarding. So I think many organizations underestimate how critical structured onboarding and integration are for new executives. I also think governance clarity is essential. One of the biggest drivers in my experience for executive turnover is unclear decision authority between boards, between other executives, between the medical leadership. I see Dr. Freeman nodding his head. And also helping leaders understand the culture, the politics, the operating model, I think improves retention significantly. And lastly, the last point I'll make is organizations they still struggle with career visibility. So many emerging leaders, they leave because they cannot see a clear path for advancement. So putting more focus on that and communicating those opportunities, I think will improve retention.